Amelia, welcome.
Thanks, Adam. It's good to be here.
For those watching, welcome to today's episode. We're chatting with dynamic Amelia Chen. Get ready to dive into AI and how high-performing team culture are driving growth and innovation. Amelia, when you and I first chatted, I think it was 4 months ago, you kind of blew my mind as an innovator in the marketing space, focused on finding that right balance. Because I think a lot of folks that are listening and those that I'm speaking with are trying to figure that out, including myself. What is the right balance? So let's give folks a little context. Can you share a little bit about your role and responsibilities, which I think are slightly unique for a marketer?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. My name's Amelia Chen. I am the head of marketing at a company called Array. We are an embeddable fintech products platform, and I definitely use AI on a day-to-day basis. So excited to share some of how we're leveraging that tool and hopefully come away with a couple of things that folks can take back to their offices.
I'm sure they will, no doubt. This next question I think is really important. Every brand is a different stage of its life cycle. So if you could shed a little light about the recent projects you've done, where you're at in this moment in time, let's spend a few minutes to orient those that are listening, because what's to come and the tools you use and the culture you're creating must be in the context of the journey you're on as a brand.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Our origin was really, we were a point solution and we've since evolved to become a platform. And I think a lot of the work that entails from bringing us to a point solution to a platform uh, is involving our brand, evolving our messaging, and making sure that everything we're talking about can scale up to where we're at today. We're working on a huge rebranding exercise now, both from a visual and messaging standpoint, to ensure that the language that we're using, the visuals that we're using, are all representative of the fact that we are now working with enterprise sized clients. We are now a platform, no longer a point solution. I think a lot of the times it can be easy to sort of get stuck in between, going from a point solution to a platform and not really landing the right message when we get to a platform. So it's really important that we take the initiative to get in front of that and make sure that the messaging and the branding that we have is consistent, that all of our enablement and sales folks and growth folks are using the same language to talk about our new sort of evolved offering.
And the consistency of brand messaging, which is a major pain point. Would you characterize it different audiences, also different stages of the journey with you? And is it external and internal? What are the different implications of thinking about making that brand voice, brand message consistent, meeting every audience where they are?
Yeah, it's a really tough one too because we have so many different kinds of products and so many different types of organizations that we sell to that going a level deeper, our value proposition differs a lot across the different verticals that we talk to. And so it's not only important to ensure that we're using the same language up top, but like when we get to that second level of like, okay, we're talking to a bank versus a fintech versus something else, that value proposition is consistent across the board. And another one of our constituents is our talent folks, right? So if we're looking to
Mhm.
hire people, we need to make sure that they know exactly what kind of company we are, what it is that we're doing, what our value proposition is. And so making sure that that's super consistent across the board is so important to driving brand awareness and our brand equity.
And you said it well. It's that the essence of the brand doesn't change, but there are nuances for the different audiences. How to recognize those nuances, how to ensure that shows up in all the channels and all of the communications, that's no small lift. But I want to move off that because I think I'm just tempted to just stay there and go deeper and deeper. I've got an episode for all who are listening that's coming up shortly. I'm actually going to be live in person in Phoenix at Nikola Motors next week from this episode. By the time you're watching it, it probably is going to be a week in the past. So moving on, I want to talk about how do you empower a high performing team? Because the moment we find ourselves in now is quite different than the past. The technology may be somewhat reminiscent of internet, digital transformation, took a little longer. Can you share some of what you're learning about how to empower a high performing team?
Sure. Yeah. I think there are a couple of things I've learned along the way. One is one of the largest mistakes, or one of the most common mistakes I see with people managers is that they try to impose who they are and how they work onto their team and try to sort of create like a little mini me, right? And that's never really worked out ever. I've never seen that work out well. The opposite of that is truly understanding who your team members are, what they like, what they don't like, what gives them energy, what projects they lean towards, what they lean away from, and then really driving towards that. And that takes a lot more work than sort of just like trying to train someone to be a miniature version of you. It's like you need to pay attention to all the little indicators of how they work and again, what gives them energy and that sort of thing to really unlock the potential that they have. So I think it's a really big piece. And then another one, which I think we might go into later, is the way that I think we're working now and the way that AI is technology is evolving. I think really implies that we're going to see much smaller teams across the board with outsized returns based on where we've been before. And so, and I think I'm at a privileged position to say that like we do have a really small marketing team, but we're producing a lot. And I think it's because we're leaning on technology and AI to do so. We're leaning on the strengths of our team to be able to unlock that potential. So just a couple of points there.
Amelia, let's go there. Let's go straight into how do you leverage it? How do you embrace it? What kind of automations? Let's go all in.
Yeah, we can get super tactical. So I do want to give credit to our CEO and founder because he is very innovative in the way that he thinks, and so he's created this culture where it's okay for us to experiment. It's okay for us to play with AI, and actually, he really encourages it, and he's always on the forefront of like new fun tools that we can experiment with. So I will say a lot of it is due to the fact that he is so open and encouraging of us experimenting with these different kinds of tools in terms of like how we're leveraging it. So of course we're using all the language learning models, right? Like to write our copy. So that's a big one. Chat GPT, we use copy, etc. Uh, our designer also leverages AI to produce videos for her, and so like we're doing things like creating product videos, and we'll write out a script, and then we'll have an AI voice over, like sort of going over the product video itself. So we don't need to hire someone professional to do it. We don't need to do it ourselves. And that really cuts down the amount of time it takes for us to produce these kinds of videos. We're also leveraging AI in a very fun way in which like we're, as an example, uploading a sales call into the environment and sort of asking it to generate a blog post based on the conversation and say like, hey, based on this like very successful pitch, can you pull out the different value propositions that resonated with this particular client and turn it into a blog post? And that's been great in terms of creating quality content, which I think is really hard to do with existing models of AI because it's, if you ask a tool to generate a blog post, it's going to be pretty generic and it's going to say the same thing in today's ever evolving world or whatever, right? It's going to look very similar, but without those crucial inputs from that are unique to our organization, the quality of the output is going to be lacking for sure.
No doubt, the more you give it, the more you're going to get out of it. Now, Amelia, what's your team's experience? If you know, this may be too much in the weeds, but if a lot of the folks I'm speaking with are asking, can you trust what comes out? There are hallucinations, there are questions of quality. There's this aspect of human in the loop, and to what degree? I know there's some folks listening that have a position of the most I'll ask is give me ideas maybe for the title, maybe bullet points. There are others who say, you know what, good enough for rock and roll, if you will. And there's a lot in between. Where in the spectrum are you, and where in that spectrum is your team?
I would say maybe somewhere in between, in that I'll never take the exact output of a piece of content from one of these tools. I'm always going to review it and imbue our brand, our tone, and like our standards of grammar to the thing. And it's always going to be reviewed by a person. And I would say probably similar to our team, in which like I think we're at a point still where we need a human reviewer in these processes to make sure that like whatever this thing is outputting, that it aligns with our voice and how we talk about certain things. I have seen mistakes from it for sure, and I have seen like it cite sources that aren't necessarily sources we want to cite. So it's always important that a human goes in to review the thing that it produces to make sure that like we're not doing anything out of compliance or outside of our brand guidelines.
Totally. Wild West, a little bit.
Wild West, a little bit.
Wild West, yeah. I've been privy to some very heated debates on this topic, and especially for the folks that, their entire careers are in creation of content. It's a moment in time when they're asking the question of what is their role in this
Interesting.
new world we're entering. But I'm not going to take us down that. It's just a quick little reflection, Amelia. I want to move on and talk about challenges, growth challenges, because the company's growing, the brand refresh has taken place. Can you chat a little bit about that, perhaps even as it relates to AI? What are some of the challenges you're seeing, or the broader challenges for the organization?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like, the curse at being good at your job, right? Like I think my team is absolutely stellar. And then, but if you are good at your job, you just invite more work on your plate, right? People trust you to do those things. So I'd say that's probably one of the challenges, right? Is just like being able